All right, I'll say greetings this evening of your time. How are you all? Are you all alive? Oh, thank you. Allow me to begin this interaction this evening of your time with the entitlement. Expressing your beliefs. Many of you have understood in your explorations of your reality, to some degree, in some shape or form, that your beliefs are a foundation for the creation of your reality. Now, this is something that is, perhaps you can say, becoming more mainstream in your own society, and as well is something that we, in interacting with you over the last several years of your time, have discussed in various forms, in various ways. So therefore, again, the idea that your beliefs are a foundational template or blueprint for your reality is perhaps nothing new to you. Understand that all belief systems carry along with them their own built-in set of logic, their own built-in set of evidence and support. For all beliefs are, perhaps you can say, a complete kit and bring along with them the reality that would seem to correspond with that belief. Understand that beliefs, in a sense, are a filtering system, not only through which you express your reality, but then subsequently also through which you receive your reality. Therefore, not only do you create according to your beliefs, but you also perceive according to your beliefs, because of that self-perpetuating system of logic and evidence that all belief systems contain within them. Now again, perhaps this is nothing new. We have also explained that in your particular reality as physical beings, that your beliefs lead to your emotions, that your emotions lead to your thinking or thought patterns, and that prism, that triad of belief, emotion, and thought are then the underlying foundation for your actions. In a physical universe, physical beings as you are, your actions ultimately create physically the reality. So therefore, though the actions themselves, perhaps you can say, are the prime movers of the reality itself, the foundational belief system sets up the tone of those actions, of those thoughts, of those emotions. Now again, this is quite useful because you can always trace backward from your actions, thoughts, or feelings what you must believe in any given moment in order to feel, think, and act that way. Therefore, your beliefs or your belief systems are always right at your disposal, are always right there for your examination now that you understand the feedback that you can use to trace back to those beliefs. We have also shared the idea that you can only change a belief once you first will own that belief, once you first will fully acknowledge that that is the belief that you are expressing. Now, perhaps this brings us very nicely to the point, perhaps you can say, of this particular introduction this evening. Now that you do foundationally understand in whatever version you have created what I have just shared, I am now allowed by you, by your society, to expand this a bit further. And perhaps you can say add a very simple fact, but in its simplicity and therefore its accessibility, it provides an understanding to allow you, once again, a bit more effectively, to create the life according to the beliefs that you prefer, rather than the beliefs that perhaps you have bought into, perhaps you can say on faith or trust that everyone knows that's the way it is. For that is one of the ways that you buy into beliefs in your reality. You get a sense that, oh, everyone knows that, and then you, not wishing to be left out, will then express that, not looking at is it really rational, but that is what everyone seems to believe. And this is how societally, consensually, many of you co-create agreements and therefore have similar experience due to, shall I say, your alignment of beliefs with each other. However, you are always the only creator of your reality. And therefore, your beliefs are always an expression of who you are being in any given moment. Now, here is perhaps you can say the expansion that we wish to share. First of all, understand that what you refer to as God, we refer to as all that is. That is simply an all-inclusive term. It leaves nothing out. It is therefore, from our perspective, quite accurate. You are an expression of all that is. And therefore, in being a facet of all that is, contain it all. Nothing is left out of who you are. Now, you may choose to not be aware of many things as a physical being, but as a soul, as an oversoul, you are consciously aware of the fact that you contain it all. Not that you are within a reality, but that literally the reality is within you. Perhaps you can say similar to what you call a dream, though it is quite real by your own definitions. Understanding that you are an expression of all that is leads to the understanding that there is no outside. Everything is within you, not one exception. Therefore, when you talk about, I have this particular belief, no matter what that belief is, it is not completely accurate to say, I have this belief and the opposite belief I do not have. Now, quite technically speaking, you contain everything, and therefore you contain every belief, and it's reciprocal. If you say, for instance, I believe I deserve a life of joy, it is also accurate to say that you believe that you do not deserve a life of joy. To say you simply only believe one, experientially in your life, is simply not accurate or honest. Now, perhaps you may have a propensity of expressing one of those beliefs more, shall I say, linearly, more, shall I say, constantly. But in order for you to even understand or perceive something, you must already contain it. So whatever belief you state that you have, to even understand that there is an opposite belief, to even have any concept of any belief, you must also contain that belief as well, though you may not be expressing it. And this is perhaps, again, one of the points. When you say, I believe this and I get this effect in my life, you also contain the reciprocal belief. The reason you are getting the effect of any belief is that you are expressing that belief, and again, as physical beings, ultimately through the actions of your life. You are acting like a person with that particular belief. When you act like a person with a particular belief, you still contain the opposite belief. Otherwise, you would have an inability to even be conscious that another belief even exists. So understanding that you contain all beliefs may at first seem to make things more confusing, but ultimately what it does is hand you back your power to choose. For you need not acquire a new preferred belief. You already contain all beliefs. Why you have been getting the effect from an unpreferred belief is because you have been acting like a person with the unpreferred belief, expressing the unpreferred belief through your actions. This does not mean you do not contain the preferred belief. Your ability to even state a preferred belief tells you you must contain it. You can make sense of nothing unless you first contain it. So it is not a matter of getting rid of beliefs that no longer serve you and acquiring ones that do. No, that is not accurate, and that invalidates your connection to all that is and your role as creator. It is that you contain all beliefs, and in a given moment, you are expressing one of those beliefs. Now, why this gives you back your power is because if you are expressing a belief you no longer prefer, you can choose in that sense to allow it to seem to overwhelm you and do nothing about it. Or in understanding, wait a minute, you may say to yourself, I am expressing a belief that I do not prefer. However, I can conceive of the belief that I do prefer. I contain both beliefs. They are both equally accessible. I am about to perform an action that is, in that sense, consistent with the old unpreferred belief. So, if I am to choose the new preferred belief, what would a person with that new preferred belief do in this exact same situation? Your willingness to dialogue and be honest with yourself and remind yourself that you contain both beliefs, and then your willingness to extrapolate what one would do with the preferred belief hands you a new set of actions. Actions are the prime movers. And when you compare the actions, what a person with the unpreferred belief would do, to the actions of what a person with the preferred belief would do, it will not be too difficult to choose the actions of the preferred belief. Now that you are allowing yourself to be privy to the fact that there are alternatives. The only thing that makes your life automatic is the assumption, is the belief that it is automatic, is the belief that you exist within a reality and are helpless in that sense to move that reality. You are the reality. The reality is within you. One of the reasons, one of the purposes for expressing yourself in this way is to experience what it feels like to seem that you are within a reality. But ultimately, as you in that sense expand and grow, and ultimately when you transform physically, as you say, die, it will be quite evident that the reality that you used to believe that you existed within exists within you. So does all what you'd consider to be the props, all the ideologies, all the thoughts, the emotions, all the beliefs. You contain them all. You already create through the aforementioned mechanism. Belief, emotion, thought, and action. Therefore, to change your life according to preference is simply a matter of doing what you already have become expert at, though not automatically. What you call habit in your society is generally defined by individuals to be an action that you repetitively perform unknowingly, unconsciously, automatically. But what this definition allows is to understand that the moment you know you have a habit, you no longer have it. If you know you have a habit, then it is no longer automatic. Then it is no longer something you are doing unknowingly. The moment you acknowledge that you know you have it, from that point forward, it is a choice and no longer a habit. What you call habits are not as automatic as you might assume. You perpetuate through choice what you call habitual ritual. Therefore, you can cease to do so. You can choose anew. And you can express beliefs that you just as well contain. Therefore, there is nothing to acquire. There is no effort to be had. There is nothing to struggle for. And again, reciprocally, nothing to get rid of. It is a matter of what you will emphasize. Since you contain all beliefs, which beliefs you are expressing in any given moment are the ones that you are emphasizing. When you emphasize one belief, when you express that belief, its reciprocal, its opposite belief, no longer seems to have any relevance to who you are. But it still exists within you. It is just that you are expressing that particular belief in that particular moment. So therefore, if you say, I deserve, and that is a belief of mine, and you understand, well, from time to time, perhaps I do express the fact that I do not deserve, you can take the pressure off of yourself to say, well, I believe I deserve, and therefore I do not contain the belief that I do not, or I believe that I do not deserve, and therefore do not contain the belief that I do. You contain both beliefs, and in any given moment are expressing one or the other. Therefore, since that is an active action on your part, always in any given moment can you choose something else and do not need effort to simply do what you are already doing, now according to preference. Therefore, be mindful of which belief in any given moment you are expressing. And when you experience an emotion you label negative, remember, emotions are always a response to a belief. You do not just feel that way. You may say that. That is not completely being honest and accurate. Therefore, when you feel a negative emotion, the simple inquisitive line of questioning, what must I or any person in this moment believe with what is in place in my life to feel this negative way? Your willingness to ask these questions rather than accept the negativity of your reality at face value will allow you to nail down the belief that you are expressing in that moment. And then you can remind yourself that you may now choose to express any other belief by simply extrapolating what you or a person with a preferred belief would do in the same situation. Whenever you give yourself the alternative, the actions of the preferred belief will always be far more compelling to choose. For having given yourself the opportunity to see that that is even an option, allows you to be who you truly wish to be in any given moment. Automatic behavior preassumes there are not other options. And when you break down what you must believe to be acting in any given way, and then state the preferred belief, having acknowledged the old unpreferred belief, your imagination is always an expert tool at providing what a person with the preferred belief would do in that situation. Therefore, you always have your model, you always have your blueprint, you always have your template right there with you by simply asking, all right, I am expressing this unpreferred belief and I acknowledge that. For I understand that that acknowledgement is the only thing that will equalize that belief to all other beliefs. Now I am stating the preferred belief. Now in my imagination, I am projecting what I would do if I really believe the preferred belief. Well, look at that. I would hold my head higher. I would perhaps be a bit kinder. I would perhaps in this situation understand that nothing can harm me, and therefore I have chosen to interact with this circumstance. You will see through your imagination's eye that the mere posture of the preferred you in your imagination will be different. and your imagination will provide rich, illustrious examples of what you would do in any given situation if you allow it to function in that way, rather than in the more typical use your society has employed your imagination for, worst-case scenarios. Understand your imagination, although it has been perhaps used as a fantasy escape many times, as again, a projector of worst scenarios so that you can prepare for the worst. It is also as expert as lying, and at lying down a blueprint for positive action. You can always extrapolate what a person with a belief would do if you are quiet and honest with yourself. And the more details you are willing to imbue into it, the more you will have a pattern to mimic. And the more you can notice, again, the nuances down to the posture of the preferred you, or of a person with that preferred belief. Therefore, understanding that you already contain it all makes your reality simply a matter of conscious choice. You get to choose. It's up to you. If you choose to do nothing and allow your reality to remain the same, you have made a choice, and you are living that choice. And that is just as valid a choice as anything else. When you choose a new belief, you need not do so and then forsake the old belief. Forsaking the old belief has the paradoxical result of adding more weight to the old belief by placing attention and judgment upon it. It simply no longer serves you. It obviously has the right and reason to exist for anyone else who might wish to explore it. And furthermore, it allowed you to get to this point. So it was of positive service to you. Your willingness to not forsake your old beliefs and simply choose and act according to your new beliefs in acknowledgement of the old belief equalizes all your beliefs and allows you equal access to choose the effects of any belief. When you deny a belief, you give it more weight, you give it more attention. You give yourself more of a propensity to choose the very thing you say you deny. But when you acknowledge it, you equalize everything. You put everything, as you say, on equal footing. Acknowledge your old beliefs, validate them, and choose the new preferred belief. Project and extrapolate what a person with a new belief would do, and in any given situation, hand over that situation to the new preferred you. You will always come up with a positive set of actions, and again, allowing yourself to be privy to any alternative will provide something very compelling and attractive to choose that now that you have given yourself the advantage of being aware of, will in that sense be obviously more beneficial in its effect and in its outcome. Therefore, take back your power. No matter what you are doing in your life, you are expressing that power. And if you are assigning importance to external symbols, external people, external relationships in your life, you are simply assigning your power bit by bit to external symbols. That is a belief that has the seeming effect of giving back the evidence of that belief. All beliefs are valid. Therefore, it now becomes a matter of what do you want? What do you desire? What do you choose? Acting upon that which excites you, which brings you passion, which brings you joy, with integrity, always can only have a positive outcome for yourself and for everyone else around you. That recognition of integrity is the underlying understanding that everything is an integrated whole. Though it may appear to be parts, it is all one expression of an integrated whole. And treating your reality with that respect, treating it with that integrity accordingly, can only result in beneficial effects for yourself and those around you. Therefore, allowing your excitement to be your gauge, your barometer, and acting upon that with integrity is, in that sense, a replacement mode that allows you to express who you are in no uncertain terms immediately. Already, you always choose according to some rationale. In general, it is a self-imposed set of obligation. But if you understand that moving with your passion, joy, and excitement benefits you and benefits the world around you through your creative experience and through the statement of who you are, you will understand that everyone can, as you say, win. Everyone can get, in that sense, what they want. You need not step upon each other in order to get what you want. Then it is not that much fun to relish anyway, having stomped the person in front of you to get there. So you may understand that there is enough to go around. That is a belief. And when you express that belief, you get the evidence. When you express the belief that there is not enough to go around, needless to say, you get that evidence as well. Look, be mindful of the beliefs that you are expressing and remind yourself, if they are beliefs that you no longer prefer, that you contain the preferred beliefs. No huge effort need be made. Simply open and honest dialogue with yourself and who you are and what it is you desire and what it is you wish to create in your life. That is now taking back the power that you have incrementally assigned to your external reality and acting as source, acting already complete, which you are, no matter what. So complete are you that you have the absolute ability to seem completely incomplete. I understand that this is a paradox. It is no less true. And the more helpless you feel in any given moment, the more you are expressing your great power to even be able to feel that disconnected. So inherently connected are you that, again, what you generally assign to be the negative feeling of loneliness and isolation is the complete implementation of your great power. You no longer need to express this power in a way that would seem to have a negative effect in your life. When you begin to understand that all that is unconditionally loving, unconditionally means you cannot lose that love. There are no conditions imposed upon that love. That degree of complete unconditional love is what allows the universe to exist and be whatever it wants to be. If all that is had conditions, there would be very narrow parameters through which creation could express itself. And it is the unconditional love of all that is that allows the infinite multiplicity that you are experiencing. Therefore, afford yourself that same unconditional love. When you feel judgment, all that is not judging you. You are. When you feel judgment, others are not having an effect on you with their judgment. You are matching their judgment. You can only feel your version of what anyone else is sharing. That is the degree of your power. That always allows you to trace which belief you are expressing, understanding once again that you contain them all. I thank you for your willingness to interact with me in this way. It brings me and members of my society great joy to, in an unconditionally loving way, interact and co-create interactions of this nature with you. For we also then learn, in learning much about you, that much more about ourselves. For we no longer draw such a separation and understand experientially that the reality exists within each of us as well. One of the, perhaps you can say, paradoxes of reality is that this is true for every single individual. Every individual creates their own reality, and in their particular growth, would seem that all the rest of reality is merging onto you, each and every individual. It seems in a sense like this would not be possible, but this type of paradox, where it is not this or that, but ultimately, to be accurate, it is this and that, both, is an expression of beginning to expand your thinking. You will find more and more of this idea to arise in your reality, where things which formerly have seemed mutually exclusive, well, it's got to be this or that, it can't be both, you will begin to understand it is both, and you get to choose. For your willingness to co-create this interaction this evening of your time with me, I thank you once again and ask you how we may mutually be of service to each other. Shedding.
Please, Elan, what I had seen in the sky on several different occasions, what were they?
What is your impression? If you, in that sense, will be bold and in that sense share with me your understandings, then perhaps I can go a bit further.
I believe I saw extraterrestrial spaceships.
Describe.
One was triangular in shape. Triangular in that, from my vantage point, the lights looked like it looked like a boomerang that was coming towards me. The lights from the left to the right, there were no blinking lights, no red light, no green light. And it was flying along the coast. I live in New London, so I was walking the beach and I saw it overhead.
All right. How many times in that sense?
That particular one once. Another time I saw a perpendicular, like a column of light in the sky, in the evening sky. Again, no flashing lights. They were just lights.
All I will share is the following. There are, shall I say, many craft that will find themselves, shall I say, in your proximity. Now, crafts can literally be in front of your eyes, but because, again, your beliefs define your perception, may not be completely visible. Therefore, again, there is, perhaps you will understand, more activity in your sky than has heretofore been imagined. This will also, in that sense, apply to your instruments as well, as they will only be able to perceive certain craft when those craft are aligned vibrationally to your particular flow of time stream within your reality. What you have perceived, at least on one occasion, and this is all I can share right now, would, in that sense, correspond to one of these craft. Is that of assistance?
Yes, thank you very much.
And to you. Shutting.
Elan. Greetings.
And to you.
A number of us have heard from a number of different sources of some very serious Earth changes predicted and coming along. And I wanted to ask you about the huge floods that are going on right now in the Midwest of our country and the large earthquake in Japan, a week or two ago. Are those, I assume, tied into the Earth changes, the Earth healing itself?
Interestingly enough, these types of phenomena have occurred fairly regularly throughout your known history. Now that there has been so much talk of predictions of negative changes, the very same things which have been occurring, again, somewhat regularly, are now interpreted as having new meaning. But you may understand that your Earth is a very dynamic, living consciousness structure and will express always what you call complete balance. That balance, in that sense, may require certain releases of energy in various forms, and this is generally what you are perceiving as these phenomena. Now, how you interpret these phenomena are, again, part and parcel and telltale of what you must believe. As we have shared many times, there is no such thing as a prediction of the future, for there is not one the future. There is an infinite number of probable futures, and within that plethora of possibilities, there are certain, shall I say, outcomes that are more likely in the energy of a given moment. But the moment an individual is aware of a prediction of one of those possibilities having more momentum, that in and of itself can be enough in that sense to change the outcome of the prediction. Awareness of an idea can always be all that is necessary to transform it. So perhaps I can turn this around in a question to you, and that is, will you accept what you are perceiving as tumultuous climatic phenomena as evidence of a negative transformation?
I prefer to believe.
One moment. Be a creator. Yes or no?
Do you mind asking the question again?
Do you prefer to use your tumultuous climatic phenomena as evidence of negative prediction?
No.
Then it has nothing to do with it for you. And again, historical perspective, a little bit of research, you will see that these phenomena are, relatively speaking, cyclical. Now, there are symbolic reasons for such occurrences at this distinct, discrete moment. And in general, understanding that specifically there are as many reasons as there are individuals, but in general, you are beginning to see individuals in one form or another to let go of what you would call material objects that keep them anchored in a particular past. For individuals will, in that sense, very often use a past as an excuse to not do what they wish in the present. Now, the past may seem through a series of events to lead to the present, but the only time you ever exist is in the present, in the now, and the past has no effect on the now until you say so and act that way and get that effect. So, because objects and materiality are one of the ways through what you call mementos and so forth, that individual will anchor themselves to their pasts. Many times you will see a collective purging of many of these objects that then allow individuals to, in a more unencumbered way, be here now. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what you're saying, and I'd like to switch to another question.
Oh, switch away.
Okay. All of my life, this life, I have been fascinated with the entertainment business, okay? And I guess the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm wondering, can you give me any comment as to why this is? In some past life, did I, for example, know Shakespeare or something?
Well, to some degree, you may understand that in what you would call past lives, you have been involved in such arts, and through this attraction, allow that to simply be obvious. But in this life, this is simply not that uncommon, that your society will create various foci, areas of focus of individuals, and in that sense, perhaps you can say in many ways, live vicariously through what they symbolically represent to you. Is there something specific through the inspiration that you derive from this that you feel you can do within your reality now?
Well, yes, back to my favorite subject, the water fuel cell. Whenever that comes to reality and to the marketplace, I would hope that interest would help me introduce that new science and technology to this planet and get the benefits thereof.
Then take, as you say, very seriously. I do not mean that you will not be light about it, that you have made this connection. And when the next step or opportunity to do something comes along, remember this connection that you have made. For one thing can enhance the other, perhaps through what you generally refer to as publicity, but you will find many applications for this besides simply that.
One last question. Since Tony isn't here, let me ask you, where are you exactly right now?
I am, as you would say, in the general neighborhood, upon my scout craft.
Which is, what, about 60 foot in diameter?
Approximately 40, as you say, feet per side. It is equilateral triangular in nature. What you would call the interior would appear to be a six-sided, for the corners are, so to speak, walled off. I am, in that sense, with two other beings, which I will not now discuss.
Okay, that was the question I was going to ask you. Okay, thank you very much.
And you as well. Shutting. Female, then male.
I'm half owner of a two-family house, and we've been trying to sell the house for a number of years. I moved out, and it has created a lot of tension in the family because the other owners are my sister and brother-in-law. Just recently, I've begun to realize, or have realized, how much, in a sense, benefit I have gained from being the owner of, or half owner of the house. And what I would like to know, is there more that I need to learn from that? Because I still would like to be free of any legal entanglements to that house.
Perhaps, ultimately, what would benefit you is a simple perspective, and that is as follows. In any given set of circumstances in your life, you will always have a multiple number of choices of how to respond. Now, one general way that individuals will respond, although there are many versions of this, is, why is this happening to me? And perhaps in this scenario from time to time, you have felt this. Yes? You may understand that when that perspective is assumed, acting per se like a victim in a reality, you do not exercise in that moment the knowledge that the reality is a reflection of who you are. So therefore, an alternate approach in any situation where an individual may have the propensity to say, why is this happening to me? Is to simply substitute the approach, how is this serving me exactly the way it is? All situations, all circumstances, all people are reflections, are messages that in your exploration of your own consciousness, you are sending yourself. When you say, why me? You are, in that sense, allowing a messenger to somehow be extraneous and not then, therefore, getting any message from the situation. When you ask how it serves me, you are allowing that situation to deliver to you the specific message. When you allow a situation to deliver its message, it transforms and changes its face. Otherwise, it would be extraneous. When you do not allow yourself to get the message, it would seem that the symbol hangs around, but its reason for doing so is to give you the intended message. So from this point forward, asking yourself not only how it serves you, but how it serves you in exactly the form that it's in, can be all that is necessary to turn the entire thing around. For by allowing the situation that you have created to serve you, and anything that you have created can be of service to you, once you allow it to give you that service and derive that service, it no longer has a reason to hang around. Is this applicable in your situation?
Well, yes and no, because I really feel like this past couple of weeks, that is exactly what I've done, is look at it, see how it has served me, and I have seen.
And you have learned many things, yes? If it therefore still hangs around, there is something else. Not that you need reiterate. If it still hangs around, that may have been one of the messages, but continue to pursue further how else it is of service to you. What I can share with you from my perception of the situation is that it is something very simple, and that it has something to do with what you would call the relationship of those that you are involved in this endeavor through, more than the physical location and physical object of what you call the house itself. So begin to explore in that direction how it is serving you, and then make the conscious decision of how you would now prefer to create it. Maintain how you would prefer to create it as an intention, a clear intention. I intend, for instance, to sell this house. And then allow the feedback of your reality to deliver the messages. Do not harbor or harp upon messages that have already been delivered. Continue in that sense to glean the positive from your reality. And again, also emphasize the relationship of those involved. And what I am, and to you, good day.
On the subject of cold fusion, or fusion in a test tube as they call it, would it be appropriate to say that this will become a valid source of power for us, for those that believe it, or would it be more appropriate to say it is or it is not a source of power?
The idea is that in the form that you are assuming, by the time it would be practical in a mass sense, there will be other more efficient ways of doing so. Now, as we have always shared, your Earth, your planet, has an electromagnetic field that is, perhaps you can say, for all intents and purposes, to the linear way that you create your life, unlimited. And therefore, the tapping of that will perhaps be one of the first most constructive applications of that technology. But as you have so, shall I say, insightfully pointed out, there are particular individuals who, through their beliefs, will choose to utilize a version of that technology.
Very good, thank you. And also, is there something you could tell us about the coming vacation that Andrew is taking from this work that would not be prophecy, or would that put any constraints on Andrew?
Very simple. It is now the time for more doing and less talking. As you do, as you apply, as you be, then if there is necessity for clarification, then in that sense, that will be the level that we will continue to function upon from, perhaps you can say, after the next interaction forward. In terms of purely instructional, we have simply, shall I say, communicated the chunk of information that will foundationally assist you, should you so choose to use it, in a particular way. Then again, the questions that arise from the application, perhaps you can say in many ways, the advanced, shall I say, version of what we are sharing, is what we will choose to interact with you and through this channel, if it is to be, on that level. Therefore, it is now the time for the taking back of your ability to respond, your responsibility to do, express the beliefs you prefer to embody. All right?
Yes. Lastly, as I'm not sure when I'll have a chance to speak to you again, I'd like to express my appreciation for perhaps getting at least one toe into the fourth density. I'm coming to see where the action is bringing the change. And I want to express my love and appreciation for that.
Well, I thank you and express my unconditional love for your willingness to interact with me. However, I would be remiss in not reminding you that no thanks are necessary. Any changes that have occurred in your life have been made by you. And therefore, thank you for allowing me to function as an elaborate reflection or mirror. And thank you for the choices that you have made that then allow you to walk as a conscious creator and therefore act equal to us. For we always will see you all as equal to us. And when you treat yourself with that same respect, then it will not be necessary to interact in such a once removed format as this. We thank you for beginning to be such an example.
Perhaps rather than having stated it in such a way that I had been giving away my power, not that you meant that either, but I was glad that we could share the joy of the creation together.
We thank you. And we love you. Female.
Elan, I have a question, please. This is my very first time here, so I...
Oh, it is my first time as well.
Thank you. I have so many questions to ask you, and I don't want to take too much time from others. First of all, I have a very strong feeling about Egypt. Could you please enlighten me? And Can I ask you two other questions so you can also think about them?
Well, no, as you say, thinking will be necessary. We can simply go one at a time.
Okay, thank you.
But you will understand that though you understand yourself as primarily a being with one life to live, you are eternal, multi-dimensional, and infinite. One of the expressions within that infinity is this finite life. However, again, though, from our perspective, what your society refers to as reincarnation, which is not precisely the mechanism, but as an analogy it will do, is the way that you do express yourself as a soul. Therefore, from our perspective, again, it is up to you to agree or not, you have all lived an infinite number of past lives, thousands in general upon this planet alone. In this particular instance, our sensing is that that area has significance to you because what you had explored in one or more past lives in that area is similar to what you are now beginning to explore within this life. As I had said, you have lived thousands, as you all have, of lives. Individuals will assume, well, I'm reincarnated. Perhaps this is my fifth life, my sixth life. No. Thousands of lives have been led upon this planet alone. But the reason it seems to only be a few is because only will any of those lives have any significance or meaning to this life if what you are exploring in this life has anything to do with what you are exploring in one of those lives. And since you have in those many lives done it all, the whole range, many of them, since you contain it all, will simply be irrelevant to who you now define yourself to be. So therefore, it is not necessarily, shall I say, necessary to physically go to that place, but you may find that in this life you will. And upon going there, certain connections, certain bells within you may ring, but you can also, in simply imagining yourself there, through what you call whatever is available in your immediate reality, get much of the similar effect. In that particular life, or lives to which I am referring, you were in that sense, shall I say, exploring what you would call spiritual expansion and growth. So therefore, that is the generalized common theme. Does this make sense?
Yes, it does very much.
Oh, thank you.
I have two more questions.
All right, number two.
Number two, please help me with my book.
Well, only you can write it. But my suggestion would be, as I had shared earlier in this interaction, to allow it to be a reflection of what truly moves you, down to the word, down to the punctuation. Allow your excitement to come through. Build up your excitement. Only write when you are excited in that moment from what's available. All the options in that moment. When the writing is the most exciting option, then you will be efficiently, shall I say, maximally functioning in that way. If it is an expression of your passion, joy, and excitement, and written with integrity, it can only have the desired effect. If you do it out of a sense of obligation and drag yourself over to the table to write, when you would much rather be out taking a walk, you will be being counterproductive in that moment.
Thank you. And my last question.
Number three.
Number three. I am very much concerned about the storage of radioactive waste.
Oh, concern. All right.
My question is, what is the answer?
The answer is, why are you so concerned? Why do you feel from what's available that you would attract the negativity and the negative effects of that reality? And why do you fear it? For fear is the same as saying that something that you do not prefer is most likely.
Okay, I'm concerned.
Now, before you proceed, simply for an, shall I say, third-person point of view, my particular sensing of who you are tells me that you are not in any danger from it. So what you are exploring is your concept of it more than the actual physical danger. Now, should you continue to express the fear, which is again the same as saying you believe that what you do not prefer is most likely, That belief will generate emotions, generate thoughts, and ultimately can only affect your action in such a way to attract that reality. But physically speaking, right here, right now, the only, by the way, place and time there is, I do not sense that danger for you. So look at it from a symbolic point of view. Why am I afraid of this? And is that who I am? You only ever attract a reality that you are the vibration of. If your intention is of love and light and positivity, and your actions then reflect that, you could not attract that if your house was situated on top of it. It would simply have no effect upon you. What it allows it to have an effect is the belief that though perhaps you may expect the best, that you must prepare for the worst. That preparation speaks louder than what you say. Do you understand?
Yes and no.
Look at the reasons that you have such a fear. That is the place to start. And understand that you believe that it can affect you in a negative way. However, remember what we have shared. You also believe that it cannot. You contain both beliefs, or you would not be able to conceptualize and word both beliefs. A person who believes that they should be afraid of such a thing acts, however, far differently from one who understands that you could never attract a reality that you are not the vibration of. Proceed.
What I'm primarily concerned about is what is it doing to our planet Earth?
Different things to different people. The individuals who are not in that sense exploring that, absolutely nothing. The individuals who are will find the evidences of the certain mutative effects of that idea. But what will allow you societally to evolve past the point of that having an effect on you is not an external symbol, but a way of thinking. For when you think, when you believe, when you feel, when you act, you create a vibration. Now your society is creating the vibration where what you would call radioactive effects can seem to have a negative effect upon you. But as you begin to shift your mentality, it simply will not. Also, it is our, shall I say, strong sensing that there is the likelihood that your society will, in that sense, create what you would call certain polymer type structures that can contain what you call radioactive waste and essentially render, shall I say, non-toxic the effects of it when passing through the matrix of the container. So even on a physical level, we perceive your society, shall I say, will handle that quite soon.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and to you.
Elan,
Nice.
I have a question about my health at the moment. Well, let me say, it's nice to see you again. I haven't been here for about a year.
Oh, greetings.
I have had my summer planned out so that I could spend some time with my children as well as working. And right at the end of the summer, when they got out of school, I developed pneumonia in one lung. I took medication and found that I had developed pneumonia in the second lung. So instead of really enjoying myself with my children, I've been spending my time in bed and sick. And I wonder if that's something that I brought on myself, or is it just an illness that I just have to work through?
It is a reflection of the idea that you can only, in that sense, express and display love, nurturing, and caring to others to the degree that you are willing to do so with yourself. So allow your reality to be obvious. Use the time where your, shall I say, body would seem to participate in a creation of an idea that would require your self-nurturing to take the opportunity to do that self-nurturing, understanding, though it may not have been what you expected or desired, that self-nurturing then gives you that much more ability to share that nurturing with someone else. Therefore, allow the situation to be obvious. Take care of yourself since you have, quote unquote, shall I say, created a messenger that would seem to force yourself to take care of yourself. And when you have arisen, shall I say, feeling that you are now well, understand what you have gained is that much more ability to actually do what you wanted to do with the children. Also understand that you need not, quote unquote, necessarily partition your reality in such a way where you need to put aside time to do so. You can weave into the fabric of what you call your schedule that is always something that is forthcoming from within you. Do you understand the distinction?
Are you saying that in taking care of myself, or in taking this time for myself, it will work out better in the long run for my family?
Well, absolutely, but your willingness to get down to the business of loving and nurturing yourself increases your ability to effectively do so with the children. And also, again, rather than needing to put aside a block of time, separating that here is the time to do so and here is the rest of the time to not, begin to incorporate into the flow of your everyday reality time to do so, time to nurture those around you. Make the time, as you say, create it.
That makes sense. I have one other question. About a year ago, I experienced something which lights up in the sky, which I asked a friend to ask you about, and you had said that it was a UFO.
By the way, it is not that every time someone asks us that it is. Do proceed.
I know, as a matter of fact, this is the first time I ever heard you say yes, as a matter of fact.
Oh, thank you.
My question is, one of the things you had said for me to do was to follow my excitement, and if that excited me to get more involved and to read books and things. And I've been doing that, and I was wondering if you foresaw anything for me in coming.
In terms of what you would call a future sighting,
Yes.
and this will become more common upon the face of your planet. We have always shared that paradoxically, your greatest opportunity for attracting such a thing is to completely forget about it and submerge yourself in what is available in your reality. Have the intention, but do not obsess upon that intention. Do not in that way place that above what you are already doing. Simply allow it to be an intention, go on with your business, and you will be looking up at exactly the right time. Again, this will become more common upon your planet. To some degree, it has over the last few years, but has accelerated even more so in what you call the last few months. What you call your video camera explosion is now beginning to, in that sense, shall I say, capture, so to speak, colloquially speaking, many of the images of these ideas, and you will be seeing more and more of this, not only necessarily individually and personally, but through the various outlets that you call your media. Therefore, go about your business. Do not obsess upon that. Ground yourself to your reality. Your head being in the clouds at the cost of your feet on the ground does you no good in your reality to move that reality according to preference. Keeping your feet planted on the ground and moving with integrity through action in your life sets you up of the vibration to witness such a thing, but only in perfect timing.
Thank you very much.
And you as well.
What?
Ace.
It is a pleasure to be with thee.
And greetings to you.
I would like to have what we interpret as a intuitive reading of this being, and to ask a question afterwards.
One moment. Were you listening up for what I have just shared about unconditional self-love?
Yes.
All right. That is my message to you. What is it you wish to ask?
Is unconditional love the reading that you are giving me?
The idea is that are you to begin to remove the conditions to loving yourself? Remove the form of the imposition of those conditions that you call self-judgment. Then the next quote-unquote step in your life will become immediately obvious. Therefore, when you find yourself judging yourself, lighten up. Is that too simple?
Very simple.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Recently I have come across The energy that is me came across an entity that, shall we say, is doing the same thing that Andrew is doing. Is this something that I am going to be doing on a more regular basis?
Does it excite you to do so?
Yes, it does.
All right. In what form, being that what you call channeling is quite a general term? Anything that you do with no hesitation, no doubt, is a channeling. You are, if you wish to understand yourself as a higher self, as a soul, channeling but a mere fraction of that higher self to be the personality that you consider yourself to be. So you are all experts at channeling. When you walk down the street, you are doing so with no hesitation, no doubt. You are channeling that. So the question becomes, how do you wish to express that channeling?
Be it either as a teacher or as a healer, is as what you're saying as expression of being a channel. Is this how I'm to interpret what you're saying?
The point is that there are many ways to express channeling. Which of those many ways excites you the most?
Okay, this is what I have to decide.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you, and may God's light be with you.
Oh, thank you. It always is. It is with all of you. And in your simple willingness in any given situation to lighten up, you will be enlightened to that fact. I thank you. You may all enjoy a short break. We will resume contact in 10 to 15 minutes of your counting. All right, I'll say, continue sharing.
Elan,
Yes.
good evening.
And to you, greetings.
Greetings. I have a question in reference to food combining. I've been reading about the Chinese Tao, and I was just curious about the way they combine food for a healthier system as opposed to the way Westerners eat right now. I'm having a problem with my stomach, so that's what this.
All right. Understand, first of all, though your society will create general overall agreements that will seem to have consistency, that everything, including what would seem to be the immutable physical laws of your reality, are an expression of belief. This is no less true with what you call your food consumption, and in fact with your relationship with the various aspects of your environment that you sometimes label beneficial, other times will label in that sense detrimental. Therefore, to be, again, most accurate, what you truly believe about what you call your consumption will, in no uncertain terms, affect and create a result of the interaction of these various ideas. Now, therefore, you have attracted to yourself something which you find, according to your belief system, more acceptable or more, shall I say, representative of, in that sense, what you choose to express in terms of your own habits in this sense. Therefore, you will find that it will be beneficial for you. But again, primarily through and because of your belief, and also as a side note, as a reflection of the fact that as you begin to expand and understand that your reality exists within you, external ideas that you depend upon will begin in that sense to disappear, will begin in that sense to have less significance. In general, as a society, however, you move in increments or gradients. So what you will in general find as you evolve, so to speak, from beings that eat to beings that do not, is that rather than simply going from eating or providing that form of sustenance to not doing so and interacting directly with your environment, the gradient will be created through, in that sense, attracting lighter, shall I say, what you would call substances to ingest in this way. More, as you say, natural ideas that are less, shall I say, removed, so to speak, from what you call their natural state. Does this answer the question?
Yes.
Is there something else you wish to discuss?
No, thank you.
Oh, thank you as well. You will in general find this to take the form of what you call greens, what you will call whitish substances as well, and ideas of this nature that are lighter in that sense, not only physically lighter, but also vibrationally less lighter. Again, closer to what you would call the natural state. Over there, male. Ace.
I'm new here, and it would help me to understand a little bit more about this process. My left side of the brain needs to know how would you describe yourself or your being? That is, do you have a body similar to ours?
Ace.
Do you have eyes, ears, limbs?
Ace.
Are you nourished? How are you nourished?
In what you would call my ancient past, we did in that sense, as you say, take sustenance, as you say, food ingestion. However, as you are beginning to, in that sense, shall I say, transform from a more limited, isolated seeming type of being to a more expanded being while still being physical, our transformation is from that expanded physical being into the first stage of being non-physical. So therefore, in what you would call my past, we did eat, we did sleep. Now, as we begin to explore entering non-physicality, and again, colloquially speaking, since you do not enter it, so to speak, the idea is we no longer express what you would call the need for external sustenance, for we experientially understand that the reality exists within us. Therefore, our sustenance would now seem to take the form of direct absorption of the energy that surrounds us itself. And what you would call sleep is no longer something that we choose in that sense to experience, though we may enter what you would call a meditative state. Generally, that will be for what you would call a few moments at a time. We, shall I say, express ourselves through the doing and being of our reality. We are very, shall I say, directly involved in our reality. Physically speaking, we have a planet, we have, as you say, bodies. We are, as you say, humaniform in nature with a similar configuration as yourself, though in general we will be 5 feet of your height. Our skin will be a grayish white type of skin, a little bit more pale, as you say. You would perceive us in that sense as being a bit more frail than yourself, but we are in that sense quite substantial from our point of view. We have, in that sense, large upturned eyes which appear black because the pupil will occupy most of the eye, but they are not actually all black. They are partially gray as well. The males in our society will be bald. The females in our society will have hair. Generally, it will be white. You will find that we also, to some degree, will function with what you call clothing. In general, it is what you would call silvery, blue in nature, though not exactly what you would call silvery or blue. That will do as an analogy. Our planet is quite similar to your own. It is approximately 85% the size and, shall I say, gravity of your own, though our sun is slightly larger than your own. It contains hues of what you call green. In that sense, it is therefore hotter. Therefore, our orbital path, as you say, is farther away from our sun. And though our day is similar to your own, approximately 25 hours, what you call our year would translate to approximately 454 of your days. So therefore, our year is a bit longer. Our axis tilt is not, as you say, as inclined as your own. It is only slight, perhaps you could say 3 to 5 degrees. Therefore, there is not the climactic changes that you understand. Relatively speaking, it is a mild climate and will not vary by many more than what you call 13 degrees of what you would call Fahrenheit, approximately in your 70s range. You would be quite comfortable upon our planet. You would, in that sense, acclimate to the lesser gravity. You would acclimate to the slightly more rich oxygen atmosphere, though perhaps you would be a bit lightheaded at first. We, in that sense, actively explore what you would call the universe, what we call the multiverse, and what you call spaceships or spacecraft. In that sense, in general, if we are, as you say, traveling long distances, and again, this is quite colloquial, We will, in general, have what you call a city or mother craft that will house several 100,000 individuals, and at the same time also then house what you call many scout craft, what you would refer to as smaller craft that are then deployed. The mother crafts in that sense are, shall I say, from 1 to 10 miles in length, generally cylindrical in configuration, and therefore, due to their great size and mass, will generally not enter what you say or call as the sphere of your planet. Therefore, it will be rare, extremely rare, that individuals will perceive a, shall I say, mother craft. There are other societies with smaller mother crafts that have been perceived from time to time. Our method of traveling is a bit different than what you might assume. For we do not see ourselves as objects in space and time. We understand ourselves as an expression, and that in that expression, space and time are an aspect of us. Therefore, our traveling is not so much moving through time, but isolating the variable of space and time in any given moment, and then plugging in the preferred space-time coordinate and simply leaving or seeming to disappear from one coordinate and then immediately taking up residence in the next. Therefore, what you call speed of light is not necessary in what you call our mode of travel, and understanding that space and time are not two separate ideas, but one expression, which your scientists now refer to as space-time, that we can plug in not only the variable of coordinate in space, but we can also plug in the variable coordinate of time. Therefore, not only do we travel through what you call space, but through time as well. Is there something specific you are seeking?
Yes. One other question before I get to my other question. You communicate telepathically, is that correct?
Our society, approximately what you would perhaps perceive as between 500 and 600 years ago, perhaps you can say in many ways, fell into a collective daydream whereby our communications became solely what you would call tele-empathic. Not so much telepathic, but tele-empathic. We all identify with each other and communicate with each other directly. Therefore, we are never out of touch with each other. And though you perceive that you are interacting with one member of my society, due to our closely knit interaction and interwovenness, all the society on some level takes place in these interactions.
Why is it that you guys communicate, that you don't communicate with us telepathically?
I do. However, your society does not necessarily recognize that form of communication and honor it. Your choice at this time is that your words will be taken at face value. That is how you choose to communicate with each other. That gives you the latitude to, in that sense, share what you wish with others, but at the same time, not share what you do not wish to share, and many times are denying from your own self. Therefore, in being non-interferive and supportive, we simply honor this. We do interact with you on these levels you would call telepathic, but not all individuals will validate that we are doing so, and understand that telepathic communication is an exchange. It is not one person reading another's mind. It is two beings in such empathic alignment that they literally create similar thoughts at the same time. I have this ability, I demonstrate this ability in these interactions, but it will always be up to individuals to validate what they get inside. If you are sensitive and allow yourself the access, you will find physically after this interaction, as you go about your business, certain ideas that we have communicated to you in what you call the mental or psychic plane, perhaps, for the purposes of a label, will simply be there when you quote-unquote need or desire it, and what I am saying will be more apparent. But in choosing to communicate with you, you having made the choice of how you will communicate with each other, we honor that choice. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Therefore, many times I will speak to an individual, quote-unquote speak to an individual. I will seem to accept what they are saying, but will often know that they are either denying their true belief or perhaps, again, purposefully, as you say, lie. But I will accept it at face value because you are sovereign beings as well. You deserve that respect. And you will ultimately let yourself know if you are doing so. It is not my job. Telepathic or tele-empathic communication is an expression of unconditional love, for only does that degree of acceptance allow for such an exchange. I always unconditionally love you all. Therefore, I have that access. When you will share that love back with me, you will find you have it as well, but you always have the choice not to do so. What you call telepathic ability is very misunderstood by what you call your scientific community. For in not understanding that it is an identification and an empathy, individuals will pose it as a challenge, and that does not take any consideration for the actual mechanism, and in fact displays an ignorance of the actual mechanism. What did I have for breakfast is not something in that sense that you need to know. You already know what you ate. Therefore, what you call psychically attuned individual either may simply not need to know that, or in that sense will not share it because of the quote-unquote challenge involved. Is this of assistance?
Yes, I have one other question.
All right.
People who have had near-death experiences enter another realm, and they experience.
By the way, they do not enter another realm so much as expand their understanding of their existing realm. But do proceed.
They encounter a realm of light, and when they encounter beings of light, they communicate, as they say, telepathically. That is, there are no spoken words, but they understand what the other people are saying, feeling, or thinking, and it's quite total. And I'm trying to.
This is an excellent analogy for how we communicate with each other.
Well, what I'd like to know is there any connection between human beings who have near-death experiences and are expanded into this, I'm not quite sure how you describe it, and what your society is?
Well, the idea is this. As you choose to experience being a physical being, you choose to create and live by the certain limitations that you create. Now, one of the, shall I say, perhaps you can say, skeleton keys to this reality is that awareness of any of the things that we are discussing can change this. But as you continue to have faith or trust in the fact that you are a contracted being not having that ability, simply when you transform through what you call the death process, you, shall I say, release that definition and begin to function more on what you would call the natural level of the soul. So therefore, it is similar, yes, to how we communicate with each other, but however, we do not in that sense need to create that particular transformation to do so. We do so during life. You can also, but it will in that sense take that you begin to trust the mechanism. And again, as you become honest with yourself and have no reason to hide anything from yourself, you also then have no reason to hide anything from anyone else. And this and only this is the open atmosphere that would allow for telepathy for many, or perhaps most or almost all individuals upon your planet at this time would consider it to be a breach upon what you call your privacy. You reserve the right to exclusively, as you say, think certain thoughts. That is one of the definitions you are exploring. So when you transform through the death process, you release this aspect of the agreement and express more of the natural receptivity of what you call your soul. In general, in between lives, if you are choosing to recreate another life, you will still maintain in the in-between state some connection or anchor to what you call the earth experience. And this is why you do not seem to expand into an infinite being and seem to, quote unquote, hang around for a while. Is that of service?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
And to you as well. If there is some other clarification that you seek, please do not hesitate to ask, all right?
Well, thank you.
And to you. Shutting.
Elan?
Ice.
When we make the transition from what we call the physical life state, is there a program? Is there a process? Are there levels of experience that we have agreed to go through?
It is very general and variable. As I have always shared, when you in this reality have a belief, you create a linear process, an emotion, a thought, and an action before manifesting that belief. In what you call the state you refer to as the transformative death experience, you are already a thought form in a sea of thought forms, and there is no linear extension. What you believe is what you experience. So upon death, whatever you have, shall I say, assumed to be most likely is exactly what you will experience. And this is why some of your religious, shall I say, ideologies are actually literally experienced by certain individuals. If that is what they truly believe, they will, in that sense, experience.
I guess what I'm asking is, I understand that from the viewpoint of the simultaneity of multidimensional reality, all things are present now. However, from my point of view, from the point of view of the individual, does one experience a linear progression in thinking and perception and abilities that continually expand and expand his ability to effectively interface with his chosen environment?
Well, that can be one experience of how you express yourself. However, sometimes you can simply choose in the next life to express more of yourself, and there would seem to be what you call a quantum jump rather than a smooth evolution. For again, I remind you, in your natural state, you already contain it all. Therefore, the idea of growth is merely subjective from one point of view. If you already contain it all, ultimately, there is no growth to be had, for you are already everything. More again, what you are experiencing in this life from our perspective is not so much a growth process as simply being, experiencing directly many of the options available to you simply because.
Can a being at any given instant access that expanded viewpoint?
Well, yes.
Let me complete the question. Or is there a limitation as to what the nervous system can integrate or handle?
The idea is that in tapping into it, only will you be able to experience what you are calling as your perceptive nervous system is designed in that sense to perceive. So perhaps you will then understand that, yes, there is some experience which simply would not translate through your physical reality.
So the filters still operate?
Well, again, it becomes quite subjective. If you, in that sense, are conscious in the death experience, understanding that what you believe is what you will experience, and choosing what you wish to experience, there are then no quote-unquote seeming rules or tendencies. All bets are off, and you can literally experience your totality.
Let me ask the question that I'm getting at another way.
All right.
When I'm out of my body and having experiences and learning things,
do you mean in this life or between lives?
Right now.
Oh.
Yeah, in this life, right? Do changes have to be made in my nervous system in order for me to integrate that knowledge and become conscious of this knowledge and awareness? Or is it my actual concept of myself that has to expand?
One creates the other. Your changing of a notion then automatically is reflected through your physicality. So if you expand your consciousness, it would reflect then in an expanded ability of your physical vessel as well.
I see.
Your body is a reflection of your consciousness, not the other way around. Though you have been taught to assume that your consciousness is a reflection of your body. Therefore, for instance, you may understand that one approach to changing a perceptive reality that you may have is to physically alter what you call your DNA. And many individuals have become fascinated and interested with this idea. However, from our perspective, it is the long way home. As you change your consciousness, it literally, even though your scientists do not yet understand this, affects and changes your DNA, for your DNA is not the model of how things are. It is a reflection, a physical counterpart reflection of your consciousness. So you can alter it from either end. However, the most empowered way to do so is through the thinking, then allowing the physical to fall into place. But what I am saying is that is the degree to which the change can be rendered, right down to what you call the DNA.
If we could just go back to a previous question and tie it into this one, the one about diet. And you said at that time that as we go through the transformation process that we will attract to ourselves food of lighter vibration.
Now, I did say in general, there will be exceptions, literally individuals who eat meat on their way to higher consciousness. But in general, that is a general tendency.
Right. My question is the taking it of nourishment of a higher vibration necessary to make that, or does it facilitate that transformation process at a physical level?
It is not necessary, but again, is generally a result of that consciousness.
I see. So it's not that you have to change the body to change the consciousness changes and the body changes.
Well, that is what you have already been experiencing. Again, with the reciprocal assumption, but your body is always a reflection of your consciousness. That is just as true as the reciprocal. Therefore, again, both beliefs exist within you. Which do you wish to express?
Well, thank you very much.
And to you, I have done nothing, and I thank you for the ability to continue to do nothing. Shutting. Ice.
I have a question for a friend of a friend.
Oh, question by proxy once removed. All right.
She has an elderly dog named Molly and feels that the spark of life is kind of going out of her eyes and is trying to decide, would it be kinder to the dog to put her to sleep now or let the dog hang out for a while? She doesn't want the dog to suffer in any shape or form and wants to do what is best for the animal.
Now, this is a completely personal decision. In other words, it is not the type of thing that would be created upon our planet, since we do not, in that sense, choose to experience any longer what you call dis-ease, and animal consciousness in being a reflection of the sentient consciousness in a planetary system will reflect that. Therefore, we no longer, quote unquote, get sick, neither do what you call our animals. Therefore, this is very personal and specific to your own reality. My suggestion and what I would perhaps do, given a similar set of circumstances, was, as always in any given moment, follow my intuition and act with integrity. Then the specifics will simply make the situation obvious. Is what you call the animal physically suffering now?
Yes.
Is that obvious and evident?
Yes.
Oh, that individual then has, in that sense, that decision to make. And that would not be something that I would advise one way or another.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, and thank her.
Elan,
Yes.
my father has been quite ill, and he's on the verge of seeming to get better, and then he has relapses. I was wondering if you could tell me, is he going to get better? Is he going to do well?
Not yet decided. However, it is no accident that you have been present for the discussion of what you call the death process, and perhaps introducing the idea that what an individual truly believes upon what you call physical dying will be one of the greatest gifts that you can now share, regardless of the decision that he makes. That is not generally understood and accepted by your society. Therefore, you do not, quote unquote, prepare yourself for that process in the way that you create preparation for other processes in your physical life.
May I ask another question, please?
Before you do proceed, however, when we had earlier spoke of the idea that reflections of things from your external reality are messengers, attempting in that sense to deliver a message to you that perhaps you have denied. This is, shall I say, exactly also true to what you call dis-ease. If you get the message, if you allow it to serve you as it is and glean that message and make the change, the symbol no longer has a reason to hang around. Number one. Number two, your society assumes that individuals who create dis-ease do so through what you call weakness. And our understanding is that it takes great strength to create such a reality and participate within it. So you need not feed upon what you generally societally refer to as the helplessness of that individual, and can perhaps in that sense enhance and reinforce their great strength. Then you are honoring their power, honoring their sovereignty, and perhaps suggesting that they may wish to allow that symbol to deliver its message rather than continuing to deny the message. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it is up to him. Always has been.
My other question concerns a young lady that I work with who has been trying very, very unsuccessfully to become pregnant and has gone through great lengths to achieve this.
Ace, great lengths, great effort. And?
My question is, will she become pregnant?
Another paradox. Only if she relaxes, releases, and lets go. Understanding that you are talking primarily about being receptive in such an act. Reception is not a tight, contracted, constricted posture. It is an open, relaxed posture. One posture is conducive for what you call conception. The other posture is completely, in that sense, counteractive to that process. So therefore, it is all well and good to have the strong desire, but you need not express that desire through panic and desperation. Relax, release, and do not force, but simply allow. That is the creative process. Forcing is, shall I say, counter to the creative process. It comes from a supposition that you do not have the power and must impose somehow yourself upon the world to get it. Do you understand?
Yes.
That will be of great assistance.
Thank you.
And to you. Sharing.
Elan.
Female.
Greeting, Elan.
And to you.
I have been always fascinated by the idea of agreements. I never thought of it before, but only since I've been listening to you. And it seems like that's how the universe runs. That's how the energy is created and things happen.
That is how what you would call the consensual reality is created, whereby you perceive other individuals having a similar reality. Now, technically speaking, you all create your own distinct reality. But what allows you to seem to be sharing a reality is an overall agreement itself.
So there are layers of agreements.
Yes, and agreements, which is not, shall I say, generally very well understood, are very, very variable. In general, there are not agreements which are immutable. Part of the idea of an agreement is that it is a co-created choice, and therefore, if one of the co-creators changes their mind, there is always some form to renegotiate any agreement. So it is what allows your reality to hold together and become fluent, but it also can be transformed and altered, and in that sense, change to reflect your growth and expansion. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand it. It's very closely related to self-empowerment and creatorhood. And I'm trying to figure out how do you know when to not go through the agreement and it's part of the.
Simply allow it to be as obvious as possible. If someone comes up to you and says, you have made an agreement with me to do such and such, you will simply know in that moment, I, yes, remember this agreement and wish to do it. Or, well, actually, I no longer am the person to do such an agreement. I understand that I have made this agreement. Allow us now, understanding that things are fluid, to renegotiate and redefine that agreement.
How much control do we have over the agreements if our higher selves have made agreements and we are not aware of them?
Well, when you are not aware of them, they, in that sense, will not, in that sense, necessarily seem to affect you. When something affects you, you then create an awareness. And once you are aware of an agreement, that is all it takes to decide whether or not you wish to continue that agreement in that form or alter it, or in that sense, re-enhance it to conform to your new definition of self.
It's about being more and more aware of our intuitiveness.
Well, yes, that also.
Anything else you can say about agreements?
Doing what excites you with integrity. Integrity, again, being your awareness of the integration of all things, always takes into consideration your known agreements. And therefore, again, you either, in that sense, in expressing integrity, fulfill the agreement, or take the responsibility to vocalize and allow other individual or individuals to be aware that you now desire to change it. That is the extent of your responsibility. And that is an expression of integrity.
Talking about forgetting to remember, I also have made this agreement not to remember too far ahead in the future.
You have made the agreement to know exactly what you need to know when you need to know it, not one moment sooner and not one moment later either. Therefore, if you know something, allow it to be obvious that that is the time for the knowing. If you do not, there is no need to create struggle and strife, simply the awareness that it is obviously not the timing, or you would know it. And when you are no longer fixated on something which it is not the timing for, that frees you up to see what is right in front of your face. Your willingness to re-engage in your reality with what is available then continues the motion in your life.
Thank you very much.
Is that of service?
Yes, very much.
Are you sure?
I was going to ask you if you can make any comments of my near future connection with California.
Oh no. Simply trust your timing and have a good trip.
Thank you very much.
And thank you as well. Sharing. Is male then female.
This is getting back to the question that I had asked you earlier about the entity that I had been channeled. Is that entity going to be a teacher for me as well as whoever I refer to?
Already is, in that sense, a reciprocal teacher and learner with you. For that is truly the role of all individuals. It would be completely inaccurate to call me the teacher and you the learner. All interactions contain both if everyone is fully willing to express who they are. That individual, for lack of a better term, learns from you as well. So it simply, again, becomes more a matter of sharing, of co-creation, and of your willingness to decide what your understanding of your agreement is, and then to either do that or not. It is generally unlikely that individuals will find the need to channel in this particular format that you are witnessing before you. For now is the time of the waking up. Now is the time of moving through your reality with eyes open. And therefore, you can take the responsibility of channeling without feeling the need to be moved aside to do so. Therefore, perhaps it would be more likely that were you to channel in a similar fashion to the channel before you, that you would do so in more of a conscious way, hearing the communications as it comes through. Do you understand?
I understand.
Therefore, to whatever degree you are comfortable, do so. And your willingness to engage the entity through dialogue, but also through questions, allowing that answer to come through, will, so to speak, prime the pump. Your willingness to apply the information that you get, even if it may seem obvious. Do not let the fact that it seems obvious invalidate where it is coming from. Communications start out in the path of least resistance. So yes, at first, you seem to reiterate things you already know. But of the many things that you know, these are the things being emphasized. And that is more the point. If you dismiss it saying, well, that's obvious, it must just be me, you shut down the communication. If you say, well, that's obvious, but of the many things I think, I will concentrate on this, this must be the communication, and then you do something with the communication, you then, perhaps you can say, empty the chamber, so to speak, and allow for the next communication.
That's something that just takes time to do.
Well, it can or cannot. Your willingness to engage in it to whatever degree you are willing accelerates the process automatically. Each time you get information and say, all right, that's the communication, you validate it as the communication, but then perform the action in your physical world, you are physical beings, you will get a result that will take you to the next step and paradoxically also allow a more expanded communication to come through now that you have experienced the results of the communication. Communications only begin as what you would say a message, thoughts, or words. They end up as an action that you take. When you take any action, you get a result, and that result continues the process. Understood?
Understood.
Therefore, just because you are channeling something does not mean that you will necessarily have any more propensity to do that than anyone else in the room. It is always completely up to you to do it as well. And if you act upon what you get, that is what accelerates the process the quickest. If you talk about it and try to convince other people about it, you will slow yourself down. Convincing someone else means you don't believe in the power of your own idea. And who you are attempting to convince is yourself. Acting on an idea is the ultimate manifestation that you believe that idea. So therefore, once again, actions are the ultimate manifestations of your beliefs in a physical world. Understood?
Clearly.
Channel away.
Thank you.
And to you. Female.
Elan,
Yes.
greetings.
And to you.
Thank you. I'm a bit concerned about a relationship I entered into about 4 months ago.
Oh, more concern. Oh,
With a man. Yes. Oh, well,
is it a reflection of who you choose to be?
I don't know. No, but in one sense, I experienced great joy and an affinity and a compatibility. And in another sense, there's an uneasiness about just a feeling of a secret agenda here or...
Whose secret agenda?
Not mine.
Are you sure?
I don't know. Or, inconsistency.
One moment. One thing at a time. Look at where you might have a secret agenda, regardless of whether it turns out that the individual does or not. You are noticing the, shall I say, subject of secret agenda because it applies more to you at this moment. And allowing yourself to play through that, dialogue with that, sets you up for the next step. Acknowledgement is your power. Denial fills what you call the subconscious closet. Acknowledgement empties it. Do you understand what I am getting at?
I do.
All right. Thank you. Do proceed.
I just feel, oh, I know what you're saying there, but can I just go to this other person? Let's say I come to grips with my secret agenda. Then do you feel there's a possibility of working out a meaningful relationship here, long term or even short term, let's say, or
Do you?
do I feel it?
If you, in that sense, as you say, reconcile your own secret agenda, do you feel such a thing is possible?
I don't know.
Do you intend that it would be?
Yes.
Do you, in that sense, attract this relationship to share the completeness of who you are with another individual expressing their completeness? Or do you attract this relationship to make you complete? Now, whether or not you are honest will determine your result. And this can, in that sense, be rhetorical. You do not need to answer it now. Just look at it. But if you wish to answer it now, you may.
I'd rather pass.
Oh. When you attract anything from a feeling of incompleteness, that feeling, if it exists within you, will always have a reflection in your external reality. If that is the vibration you are being, that is the reality you will be seeing. Therefore, if you feel I am incomplete and need someone to make me feel complete, only can you attract a relationship that will continue to reflect back to you your own feelings of incompleteness. You cannot escape them. If you are willing to nurture who you are, afford yourself unconditional self-love, and forgive yourself when you judge yourself, you will then be acting like a complete person. And then what you will then attract is a reflection of that. Understand?
Certainly do.
This does answer your question, by the way.
Yes.
Is that all?
Yes.
I thank you.
Thank you.
Elan,
One moment. Proceed.
I have another question.
Boy.
Where can you tell us where the human soul is located in the human body?
It is not located in the human body. The body exists within the soul. Your point of view of a body. It seems that you are within a body. But perhaps for the purposes of an analogy, this is not a mechanically precise model. You may understand yourself again as an analogy. I am speaking of a finite idea, and you are an infinite being. But as an overall sphere of consciousness, the minute pinpoint in the center would represent the body. When in the sphere of consciousness that you are, and again, this is quite colloquial, play along with me, please. You open the eyes of your perception at that point in the middle of the sphere, it seems that you are within a body. When you close those perceptive eyes and open them anywhere else from within the sphere, it seems that you have left the body from that perspective. But technically speaking, your body is a manifestation of your soul. And therefore, it would be an accurate and a disservice to apportion a part of something which is a complete whole as containing something which it does not contain. Is this too heady?
I see your point.
This is a liberating notion in many ways, for you will understand what you call out-of-body experience is literally simply the shifting of your viewpoint from that point within your whole spherical, and again, that is an analogy, consciousness to any other point, which then again, from that center point, seems that you exist outside your body. But your body is your soul, not soul within it. Now, does that bring up another question?
No, not right.
It will. There will be but a few more sharings this evening. Ace.
I'd like to ask you for your definition of counterparts.
For the purposes of using this terminology within your society, you generally understand yourself in physical terms as a body, a soul that has reincarnated. Therefore, you understand you have had past lives that were other reflections of your soul, quote unquote, living in a different linear time frame, not overlapping the time frame you consider yourself to live within. Do you understand so far?
Yes.
Counterparts would be when the soul expresses itself as more than one individual in the same life.
Okay,
Generally, because this exploration occurs at the same time, the reasons for exploring it within the same life are to explore generally diametrically opposed ideas rather than similar ideas. So many times you will not meet a counterpart consciousness that is, perhaps you can say, another expression of your soul, and if you do, would not necessarily recognize them as such, so different would the focus and emphasis be. Other times you can have that awareness.
So counterparts all have the same soul.
In a sense, yes. That is another way to put it.
Okay, well,
It is, perhaps you can say, concurrent lives, though, rather than being one after another, happening at the same time as well.
so in the present life, if I perceived myself as being a particular person in a former life, that means all my counterparts would perceive themselves as being the same person in a former life?
Not necessarily. Again, it will depend on their exploration and the exploration undergone in the quote-unquote former life as to whether there is any connection.
Yes, but
So sometimes one counterpart would seem, from one perspective, to emphasize different past lives than another, and would therefore assume to have led different past lives.
so also in a future life, I could perceive myself as being not myself, but the personality of a counterpart.
Ace. Now, is this at all practical in your daily life? I do not know. But it is a description of one of the ways you manifest as physical beings. Is that all?
Yes.
We thank you. Shutting.
Elan,
Ace.
I have a question from my son, actually.
Well,
He's very interested in Atlantis, and there have been many legends saying that Atlantis would rise again.
not literally. Symbolically. And you may understand that your United States, in many ways, represents a similar pinnacle, though from our perspective, with the added choice not to destroy yourself. So therefore, it makes it quite a different scenario altogether.
Would there be any physical evidence? I mean,
Well, there already is some physical evidence of what you would call the existence of your Atlantis historically. Certain individuals have physically witnessed this. It is not known in your quote-unquote mainstream yet.
will this information be forthcoming soon?
Well, it can, in that sense, be accessed by individuals through what you call your literature now. As far as its mass, shall I say, exposure, that remains to be seen.
Are you referring to the blocks that, or the apparently city streets that were found in the Caribbean?
That is one expression of that idea.
Could you tell me another?
One that will not be generally accessible due to the very high fluctuation of electromagnetic activity is what you call within your Bermuda Triangle.
Is there something physically there that?
There are certain remnant structures, one in particular that actually serve to, in many ways, enhance the natural electromagnetic vortex, and therefore that enhancement has resulted in many of what you have termed mishaps in that area.
Is there any way that we would have you will have access to that?
Well, in your meditative states, directly, always, but to the degree that you will trust what you get. In terms of physically, again, perhaps allowing yourself to be attracted to a particular area and then allowing yourself to witness the synchronicity of being there. But again, through what you call your literature, you will already read, if you allow yourself to so attract, about individuals who have already done so.
Are you suggesting that if you were in that particular area, if you were receptive to it, that you would see evidence of it, or if you were meditating, that you would feel evidence of it, or?
When you are willing to validate inwardly is when you would more likely attract external evidence. Looking for validation externally will in general prolong your process. Applying an internal validation, since again the external is a reflection of the internal, then allows the external to follow suit.
I see, thank you.
And to you. Again, I refer you to your own literature, not though what you call mainstream literature. Though there are no particular references within the channel, I do understand that certain individuals have literally even entered in what you call diving state, what you call remnant pyramids from Atlantis. So now that you understand that this exists, perhaps you will attract it. And to you.
Elan,
Yes.
may I ask you 2 questions, please?
Well, that was 1. Perhaps 3.
3.
All right, do proceed.
My favorite number. Well, actually, there's so many I have to ask you, but I have to pick up perhaps the most significant. Number 1, please. Where did you obtain, or you and your people obtain your intelligence? And number 2, did you construct the pyramids?
No. To number 2. Number 1, you may understand. You have the same intelligence that I do. Only could you appreciate anything I'm saying if you first contained it. Otherwise, it would make no sense. So when something I say rings true with you, it is because you contain it and are activating it within you. Truly, you all have completely equal capability to me in my society. There is one aspect, one idea, one approach, one word in your language. That is the only difference between my willingness to access my ability and yours. And that is trust. I trust that I know what I need to know when I need to know it. I believe this. I completely am convinced of it. I have no doubt about it. Therefore, everything in my reality reflects that knowledge. Your willingness to entertain that you might just know everything you need to know when you need to know it, and trust that implicitly, flawlessly. If you are, to utilize a mundane analogy, looking for your keys, a popular pastime upon your planet, and cannot find them, that is not the one time you do not know what you need to know when you need to know it. If you simply understand you must not need to know it at that moment and go about your business, you will find the keys. But trusting what you know, and conversely trusting what you do not know as being something you do not need to know in that moment, allows you to begin to exercise your trust according to preference rather than randomly. Is that too simple?
Yes and no.
Well,
Also, how or what can I do to further? I want to become more meditative.
trust yourself. This is the idea that I am conveying. Trust who you know yourself to be, not who someone else says you should be, but who you know yourself to be. Your vision, your literal vision, your symbolic vision is expanding. It is an expression of who you are. Access the individuals who will understand, nurture, and reinforce this expansion. Allow yourself to attract that reflection. Do not allow anyone to talk you out of what you know is true for you. Only your agreeing with someone talking you out of it can give you the effect that you are talked out of it. If you see someone who says, "You're nuts," they are not the person to reinforce who you are. And they allow you, by doing you the service of bringing it to your attention, to see and know on certain terms whether you think you are nuts or not. Your vision is expanding. Allow that to be obvious. Allow anything expansive to be positive. It is. Do you understand what I am saying?
Well, I think I will.
All right.
I think I'm trying to digest too much.
No. If you always know what you need to know when you need to know it, you are digesting just fine. Do not give yourself indigestion. Trust what you know. Act upon what you can act upon. The results of those actions will bring you the next set of knowledge you need to know. Create the flow. Get in touch with what excites you. That is why it excites you. Acting upon that vibration with integrity, once again, can only yield a positive result and can only bring the reflection of who you prefer to be in this life. All right?
Thank you very much.
At this timing, allow me to thank you all for your willingness to begin to entertain the notion that you contain it all. Sometimes we hear the statement, "Elan, I enjoy your energy." You are enjoying your own energy, molding it in a particular way, perhaps removing it once from yourself, but anything you feel, you are creating. Any joy that you think that someone may bring you is simply you activating the joy you already contain, using them as an elaborate excuse. But you contain anything you find most pleasing. If you do not contain something, and I were to share that with you, you would see the channel's mouth moving and hear no words come out. Your ability to understand is your feedback that you contain it. When you ask a question, you already contain the answer. And to prove it, individuals ask me a question, I answer it, they say, "You're right." Well, how did you know? You must have had some idea. And understanding that a question is simply an answer posed outside of yourself for external validation, you may understand that you also contain the answers as well. And your willingness to entertain them and act upon them is what delivers them to your reality. Talking about things is all well and good. It is one of the ways that you communicate. But left to only verbal communication, none of the ideas that we share will do anything but sound nice. Your willingness to apply them is where what you consider to be miracles then occur. Miracles are not the exception in reality. They are the rule. And begin in that sense to understand this. For it is no less true whether you choose to agree with it or not. You are the miracle of creation itself. You are not here to be tortured and teased. You are not here to follow a carrot dangling ever before you, never quite able to grasp it. You are here to be the best you can be. You are here to explore anything you wish through the unconditional love of all that is. Therefore, take advantage of the reality that you have created. You always create your own reality, always. Even if you seem or create a reality whereby it seems you are not creating your reality, you are even creating that. That is the degree of your power, but that degree of power allows you to change at any given moment. Change is one of the only constants. Change is natural. You do not force anything to change. That is the natural tendency. Forcing creates a seemingness of things staying the same. Allowing allows the change of creation to manifest. Then you simply define who you are with clear intention. Clarify your desire. Clarify your definitions, your beliefs. Clarify your deservability. You deserve it. And act with clear action. You already do this. And it is now a matter of taking back your power and doing it because you deserve a life of ecstasy. I thank you for co-creating this interaction with me and members of my society this evening. And I bid you all a most fond and loving, pleasant dreams and dream life.